Good afternoon, Madam CJ and Honorable Justice of the Supreme Court. It's a great opportunity to appear before you once again this year. In quick rejoinder to some of the issues that were raised by the respondents, I'd like to urge the Supreme Court, when you retire to make your determination, to consider the historical context under which we operate, under which you make your decisions. The historical context is very simple, that in the last 30 years, you cannot identify a lot of instances of free and fair elections, except in the year 2002. And that one is there in history, that this is the only election that we've ever had in 2002 when there were no contestations between the winning and the losing side. But any other election outside of that, we've always had complaints coming out of those elections. And I wish to take this opportunity to urge you to use this opportunity to bring to an end what is becoming now a perennial problem to our nation, where we cannot talk about a free and fair election. It is very simple. When you look at this particular election, it's very surprising that anyone can tell you that there was no problem, unless they live in the Republic of Utopia. Anybody, even the children, our children, can tell you that there was a problem because they would see that the results were not coming out. We were waiting for the outcome for a long time. And in the end, whatever was announced left many questions. And this brings me to the test that should apply when you make your determination. The proper test to apply is the constitutional test when you seek to determine this petition. If you find any form of constitutional infraction, then you must nullify this election. There have been multiple infractions, very serious. And the question that must linger in the minds of the judges is whether you can trust the outcome of an election that is conducted by what I could simply call the Tower of Babel, because the IEBC, when you have two factions of an independent commission, that is something so serious. It should concern not just the judges. I was happy when I heard Madam CJ, you said that you are very concerned by that. And I pray that you continue being concerned by that as you retire to make your determination, and that all of us in this country be concerned by that. That we had a commission that has two factions, that is run by what has been described as an executive chairmanship. I was very shocked. I could not believe what I was hearing today. And this was being said by counsel, instructed by that chairperson to come and tell you that he is an executive chairman. You should not accept that kind of description. It's not provided in anywhere in the Constitution. You read Article 88, which establishes the IEBC. It establishes a commission, not a chairmanship. Article 249 of the Constitution, it establishes independent commissions, and it requires that these commissioners act independently, and they should not be under the direction of or authority of anyone, including the chairperson of any particular commission. The 7 commissioners, each of them independent, they are not to be held hostage, as they have been held hostage by the chairperson, who says he's an executive chair, and who not only says that, but also instructs his advocates to declare him a national hero. I think that is ridiculous. In my opinion, if there is any heroics that we should be applauding, all of us, is the 4 commissioners who are courageous for their courage, that they came out and said there is a problem. Because in this country, we must learn to speak up, we must speak out when we see a problem. And on my level, as an individual, I applaud them. And I think that what we should be applauding, we should not be praising things that are seen as unconstitutional. Very quickly, I would like to highlight other provisions of the Constitution that I think that should be looked at very keenly, and there was no compliance with that, which should lead the court to determine that there was no free and fair election. Article 10, was it fair and transparent? We cannot say that, because if we have a result that has been tallied and verified by a few commissioners, that the majority of the commissioners are not given the opportunity, or we have some results that were not verified, then how can we say that that's a fair and transparent election? I ask you to look at Article 81, the general principles for the electoral system, which talk about a free and fair election that is run in an efficient manner, that are free from any corruption. But we've had many shocking things that in our country, we can have foreigners, even from the failing states, taking advantage of us, our systems, our people, and our electoral system. And the court should rebuke that kind of a thing. We should not allow it to happen again. It's a shame that, indeed, this is making us a laughing stock in the world. Everyone is laughing at us that we cannot carry on our own processes, simple process of tallying results and declaring them. That there's always a problem. When we could see the IEBC spending more time entertaining us with their music, instead of announcing the results. It was very irritating, I must say, as a voter, when you cannot find the results from the commission, but you find music that you could play very freely on your own devices if you wanted to. Article 138(3)(c) is very clear. It has stated that the role of verifying, tallying, verifying, and announcing the results is vested in the commission. 138(10), by referring to the chairman as the one who is declaring the results, is simply delegating that responsibility to him. And even if the chairman was not there, that function would still be carried out. If you look at the IEBC Act of 2011, Section 7A and B, it clearly provides what should happen in case there's a vacancy in the position in the office of the chairperson of the IEBC. Things will go on. Nothing will stop, as the chairman would like us to believe. Everything will be carried on, even if the chairman was not there. And should this court find it appropriate to declare that there's an element of breach of Chapter 6, the court should go ahead and make that determination, and other processes can follow. As I close my presentation, because I have 1 minute, I would also like the court to consider very carefully whether we indeed have the threshold to declare a candidate as having won this election. As we speak now, we cannot determine whether, we are not sure about the total valid votes that were cast in this election. And without that, you cannot determine whether we have a 50+1 threshold. And I ask the court to look very carefully. In my opinion, we do not have that. There's a lack of clarity. Mahat presented figures, which I would say many of them were based on presumptions and projections. And that's not what the IEBC should be doing, not giving us projections. That is for the analysts to do. Independent analysts can give us projections, but for the IEBC, they must give us specific figures. They cannot give us figures that are merely projections or based on presumption. The figures of how many voters were astray, how many ballots were astray, should be verifiable. I urge you, my ladies, and when you sit to deliberate, let's make things right for our country.
Madam Chief Justice, kindly permit me to seek your guidance. I also appear in the same matter.